Hey, Chelsea, do you know how to find out how much space is between the two circles?
Yes, so first we're going to look at the figure given. You see a larger circle in red, and then a square, and then a smaller circle in blue. So first what we need to do is determine the length of the sides of the squares, which we are given that information, and it is 10. So what we're going to do next is find the radius. The radius is going to equal half of the diameter, so half of 10 is 5. So our radius for this is going to equal 5. So now we're going to find the area of the smaller circle. And for that, we're going to use the formula pi r squared. So we're going to plug the r, the radius, in for 5, or in as 5, and we're going to have pi times 5 squared. Next, we're going to look at the larger circle. And for that one, to find the radius of the larger circle, we'll use the Pythagorean theorem. And for that, we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And for A and B, we're going to plug in our radius of 5. So we'll have 5 squared plus 5 squared equals r squared. So that is 25 plus 25, which is 50 pi. So lastly, we're going to subtract the two answers that we got from the area of the smaller circle and the radius of the larger circle. So we have 79 pi minus 50 pi, which is going to equal 91 pi units squared. Hey, Alyssa, how do you find the surface area of a figure that contains a cone, circle, and a cylinder?
All right, so by looking at this figure, it can be daunting at first. So by separating it out, you're better able to see the individual formulas for the surface area. So we would separate those into what they are, the cone, the circle, and the cylinder, and add all of those formulas together. So your surface area is going to equal pi r squared plus pi rs plus 2 pi rh. So we plug in all of our numbers. So we have pi 2 squared plus pi times 2 times 6 plus 2 pi times 2 times 10 to get a total surface area for the whole figure of 176 meters squared. And that's how we do it. Hey, Heather, how do you find the volume of a cylinder?
Okay, so just like Alyssa was talking about, you're going to take, when you look at this, you're going to have just one shape you're focusing on. So we're going to focus on the cylinder. So your first equation is going to be volume equals base times height. But what's the base? How do we find the base is the next question we want to ask. So with the next equation, to find the base, you're going to have pi r squared. And then once you figure your base out, you'll end with your volume is 2 pi r cubed, because you have two bases with a cylinder, not just one. So you have to multiply that by 2 and then cube it. Oh, hey, what is the Pythagorean theorem?
Okay, that's a great question. What is the Pythagorean theorem? Okay, it is a right angle triangle that has the square of the long side and is equal to the sum of the squares of the two sides. The formula we will use is a squared plus b squared equals c squared as given. Okay, so we know that the diameter of this circle was 10. And so to find the radius, it is half of the diameter. You can know that you can divide it by 2 or just take half of the diameter. So we know it's 5. So we plug it into our Pythagorean theorem. We do 5 squared plus 5 squared equals r squared. We know that that's 25 plus 25, so it equals 50 r squared. So the area of the large circle is 50 pi units squared. Hey, Chelsea, how many bottles will fit in one pail?
Okay, so first we're going to start off with the pail. So the square here is going to be a pail. Ignore where it says 1 gallon. That will come later. So this one here is going to be, our rectangle is going to be our pail. So what we're going to do now, we're going to see how many gallons will fit inside of one pail. We can fit 2 gallons into the one pail. So next, what we're going to look at is how many bottles are going to fit into a gallon. So for each gallon, we can fit 2 bottles. If we multiply that by 2, we're going to have 4. There will be 4 bottles in one pail. Hey, Alyssa, what is a pictograph and how can they help you better explain math problems?
Awesome. Well, pictographs are some of my favorite things. It's actually defined as a pictorial system for a word or phrase. So this was common way before we had letters or, written word. And it's really helpful for visual learners like myself. So, for example, when you hear the word 8 mouthfuls equals 1 Jill, that can automatically go out of your head because you had nothing to look at. And so here I have 8 mouthfuls equals 1 Jill. You're more likely to remember this by using a pictograph, and the same would go for the 16 mouthfuls equaling 1 cup. Using the pictograph is going to better help you explain things for visual learners and help your students. Hey, Heather, so when working with trapezoidal prisms, how do you find the base?
And that's a really good question. When I look at this shape, like it kind of threw me off at first, so it took a little bit. So the equation that we're going to use in order to find the base for the trapezoidal prisms is base equals 1/2 A plus B times H. All right, and so your A is going to be 17, and your B is going to be 26, and your height is going to be 12. So then you'd have 1/2 times 26 centimeters plus 17 centimeters times 12 centimeters. And so your base is going to be 258 centimeters squared, again, because you are still multiplying centimeters together. Don't forget that you have to square them at the end. Hey, Faith, what do you find the radius of a circle?
Okay, to find the radius of the circle, like we used on our previous question, you first have to find the diameter. Well, in the given equation, it told us that the diameter was 10. Well, to find the radius, it's not really a formula. You just take half of the diameter. You can divide it by like 10 divided by 2, or if the diameter was 12, you could 12 or divided by 2, so it'd be 6 would be the radius. But in this one, that diameter was 10, so the radius is 5 because 10 divided by 2 is 5. Or you can just take half of the diameter. The radius is half of the diameter no matter what you do, so it's pretty easy. Hey, Chelsea, how do you find the surface area of two figures together, such as a cone and a cylinder?
Okay, so when you first look at this picture, it looks kind of intimidating, but if we break it down and look at each part of it, it makes it a little bit easier. So we're going to start off with the formula first, and then we're going to plug our numbers into that formula to get our final answer. So the formula we're going to use is S equals pi r squared plus pi rs plus 2 pi RH. So we're going to look at the R is the radius, the S is equal to the slant length, and the H is equal to the height. So once we know that information, we can look at those numbers and plug it into our formula. So we'll have S equals pi times 2 meters, because the radius is 2. You see that there, the half of that circle is 2 meters, plus pi times the radius times that slant. The slant is 6, where you see the triangle slanting downwards, plus 2 pi times 2 meters times 10 meters. Once you plug all that into your calculator, you'll get 176 meters squared. Next, what you'll do is find the volume. To find the volume, you use this formula given, V equals pi r squared times height 1 plus 1/3 of the base times height 2. So what we're going to do there, we're going to look at the numbers. We have two different heights, which to find the second height that is not given, we have to put it in this formula. So we're going to have 6 squared minus 2 squared, and then we're going to take the square root of that, which is 5.66. So that second height that we're not given is equal to 5.66. So once we put that information into that formula, we're going to have our volume of 149. Hey, Alyssa, in the given problem, how would you find the area of the smaller circle?
All right, so first we need to know the formula to find the area of a circle, which is pi r squared. After we know that, we can figure out that r is the radius. So here, we know that the diameter of the circle is going to be 10 units. We know that because this square perfectly fits that circle on the inside, making that 10 units as well. So dividing that by 2, you know that the radius is 5. So area is going to equal pi 5 squared. So our area is going to be 25 pi units squared. Hey, Heather, can you show us how to get the total surface area for the figure on the slide?
I would love to. Okay, so you have a cylinder that you're going to be working with, and the equation that you're going to use to find the total surface area is going to be two different parts. So you'd have S equals 4 pi r squared and S equals 2 pi r h. So the full equation that you're going to use is going to be SA for surface area equals 2 pi r h plus 4 pi r squared. And then you're going to find the radius. So your radius is going to be 4, and your height is going to be 21. So when you plug those into the equation, you're going to have 2 pi times 4 foot times 21 feet, because 4 is your radius, 21 is your height, and then plus 4 pi times 4 feet squared. So your total surface area for this figure is going to be 729 feet squared. Hey, Faith, how do you find the area of a circle?
Okay, to find the area of a circle, we use the formula A equals pi r squared. The area of this region between the circles is the area of a large circle minus the area of a smaller circle. The length across the circle is 10, so we'll use the formula that the smaller circle has with a radius of 5. The larger circle has a radius equal to half the diagonal of the square. Find the area of the larger circle by substituting 50 for r squared into the area formula that we used earlier. Subtract the area of the formula from the smaller circle from the area of the larger circle to find the area of the region between the circles. The smaller circle and the region between these circles both have an area of 25 pi units squared. So that is the region for both of the areas. Hey, Chelsea, how do you find the volume of a cone?
All right, so let's look at the picture that we're given here, and we see that the height of the cone is 9 feet, and the diameter across the circle is 8 feet. So the formula that we use to find the volume is 1/3 times pi r squared times the height. So if we plug the information in the given numbers, we're going to have 1/3 pi times 4 squared times 9, because our radius is going to equal 4 feet. It is half of our 8-foot diameter. Once you plug all that information in, you will see that our volume for this particular cone is going to be 150.79 feet. And that is it for Chapter 10. I hope that gave you guys a better understanding. Thank you for watching.